To avoid being recognized as the undead overlord, Ainz, while disguised as Momon, was wearing armor that covered every bit of his body. But even if he had to remove his helmet, Ainz can use illusionary spells to give himself a human face. But as Ainz illusion spells are relatively weak, he took the additional precaution of wearing a mask under his illusionary face to further reduce the likelihood of discovery. Solution Epsilon's character build focuses on agility and physical combat, while her limited magic power plays only a supportive role in battles and on missions. In addition to this, Solution is also capable of literally walking through walls and utilizing powerful magical scrolls typically reserved for experienced magical casters. In short, as an assassin, this Pleiades is the ideal solution for various problems that need to be eliminated. Normally the Pleiades are commanded by Sebastian, the Butler of Steel, or led into battle by Yuri Alpha, the Vice Commander, in Seba's absence. But alternatively, the youngest sister, Auriel Omega, can lead the 6 regular Pleiades into battle. However, the 7th sister formation is highly unlikely to be deployed, since Auriel manages Nazarick's teleportation network. The reason Ainz Ooal Gown hesitated to help Gazev Stronov at the beginning was simply that he had no idea about his strength relative to the new world. While Ainz had already faced and defeated some members of the Sunlight Scripture, it was not enough to gauge the overall strength. Therefore he sent Gazev and his troop forward, while he observed the battle from a distance. Once it was clear that he was stronger, he switched places with an exhausted Gazev Stronov and defeated the Sunlight Scripture. Ainz Ooal Gown doesn't fight like many other anime protagonists. He deceives and manipulates, and his strategy and tactics are consistently amoral and solely focused on victory. His preferred way of dealing with unknown opponents was to fight against them, pretend to lose, feign defeat, and flee, only to come back unexpectedly and prepare to defeat the enemy he encountered for the second time. As an undead overlord, Ainz Ooal Gown is actually highly vulnerable to fire magic. However, since his normal equipment has a 100% resistance to fire damage, Ainz is normally completely immune to regular fire. Therefore, the fact that Pandor's actor took damage from a fire attack was a hint that both he and Ainz switched places during the fight against Platinum's armor. Princess Renner is what is known as a yandere, a character archetype who would do anything for their great love and to be together forever, even resorting to violence. In Renner's case, this extended to betraying her homeland, personally eliminating her father, and becoming a demon, just to spend eternity with Climb. There are many parallels between Luna Princess Rani from Elden Ring and the Golden Princess Renner from Overlord. Both rebelled against a predetermined fate. Both are closely intertwined with death, both directly and indirectly. Both indirectly killed family members and triggered a great war. Both spent eternity with a weak but determined consort, Climb or the Tarnished. And both literally changed their bodies. And Rani's teacher is literally named Renner. So, do you think Rani had been inspired by Renner? Let me know it down in the comment section. Renner is a yandere who has eliminated numerous women rescued by Climb, her future lover, from a brothel, simply because she wanted to destroy any potential competition from these women. And there are strong parallels between Renner and Albedo, who is also a yandere and obsessed with Ainz Ooal Gown. So it could be that Albedo wants to eliminate people like Nea Baraya or Naber Gamma and even the other NPCs of Nazarick, in order to simply knock out any potential competition. The reason the Riestal's kingdom was wiped off the map is not just because a single noble in this kingdom attacked a grain transport of the Sorcerer Kingdom, it's because the Sorcerer Kingdom wanted to demonstrate strength after this attack, to signal all surrounding nations, join us, and you will flourish like the Baharut Empire. But if you attack us, you will be eradicated like the Kingdom of Riestal's. After the conquest of the fortress city of Iwantel, all of the existing laws of the kingdom were still enforced, as Ainz Ooal Gown had not given clear instructions on what should happen with the new territories. It was only when Ainz Ooal Gown decided to expand his Utopia project and create a magnificent empire and kingdom, that is, worthy of Nazarick, that the laws were reformed and that the economy was stimulated. While the Riestar's kingdom, despite its secure borders and rich resources, was rotting from within, the much poorer and less protected Barut Empire flourished. There, no one could afford weakness and a significant level of corruption, as that would have spelled the end of the entire nation. Albedo is the overseer of the Floor Guardians, and after Ainz Ooal Gown, the second most important person in all of Nazarick. Surprisingly, she was effectively homeless until she came to the New World, as she was stationed in the throne room during the Yggdrasil Online era, and only received her own room after Nazarick's arrival in the New World. Albedo's room is filled with Ainz Ooal Gown plush toys and body pillows, creating an eerie shrine of fangirl obsession, and therefore the regular inhabitants of Nazarick, and the battlemates and the normal mates, and everyone else in the Grey Tomb has received orders to never enter her room or try to clean it. The reason Ainz Ooal Gown fled after his wish spell failed was that Ainz realized that Shalltear had been under the influence of a world item. Therefore, he suspected Shalltear served as bait, in a trap. And in the battle against Shalltear, Ainz aimed to lure out enemies by acting as bait himself, as he appeared to be alone. And if there had been enemies nearby, they would have all been captured by Aura's world item, depiction of nature and society. The reason why Shalltear Bloodfallen couldn't be controlled by the theocracy of Slain was not only because Kyra died, but also because no other member of the Black Scripture could use the world item Downfall of Castle and Country, and therefore nobody could give Shalltear Bloodfallen orders. Shalltear Bloodfallen only crossed paths with the Black Scripture because she had encountered Britta before. Britta threw Ainz's healing potion at her face, causing damage to the undead. This awakened Shalltear from her bloodlust, making her question if she had unintentionally frauded Ainz's plans, since it was his potion that hit her. Subsequently, she summoned creatures to eliminate the other opponents that were still around, which were then in turn eliminated by the Black Scripture, thus alerting Shalltear to their very own presence. Shalltear Bloodfallen barely eliminated Kyra, the user of the world item Downfall of Castle and Country, in time. If Shalltear hadn't succeeded, she would have been captured by Slain, without anyone in Nazarick knowing what happened. The reason Ainz Ooal Gown could buff himself in front of Shalltear directly was that Shalltear only retaliated after receiving damage from an opponent, since she stood under the influence of Downfall of Castle and Country. This also means that Platinum executed the first attack against Shalltear in their very own battle, and this information could play a role if Ainz becomes aware of what happened during the battle against Shalltear. The reason Ainz Ooal Gown and many other casters liked Death Knights so much is that they can survive any attack, no matter how powerful, with at least one hit point. Additionally, these undead draw attention from enemies and monsters, thus diverting the focus of them away from the caster. So despite only being level 35, Death Knights are often favored by level 100 players for these very reasons. Before the battle with Shalltear, Ainz Ooal Gown summoned 4 eyeball corpses in the light novels and in the manga. These pink-eyed undead are high-level undead, and they were intended to monitor the battlefield and look out for those who had placed Shalltear Bloodfallen under mind control, as Ainz suspected a trap behind Shalltear's presence, which he wanted to trigger during the fight in order to capture Shalltear's attackers. Shalltear Bloodfallen would probably have won the battle against Ainz Ooal Gown if she had immediately summoned ein Harrier, a perfect clone of herself, and relentlessly attacked and pursued Ainz, as he employed a more defensive and endurance-based combat strategy, aiming to bide his time and deplete Shalltear's mana and skills until Ainz could utilize his strongest super tier magic once again, which ultimately cost Shalltear her victory. even though she is actually much stronger against Ainz than vice versa. The reason why Mare mistook Zashi for an attacker of Shalltear, or at least someone involved in the attack on the bloody Valkyrie, was that Zashi could both summon Ainz, which was Shalltear's ultimate trump card, but she could also use the goal of all life is death, which in turn is Ainz Ooal Gown's strongest skill. And since both skills clashed only in the fight between Ainz and Shalltear, and since Zashi was in general very strong, it's understandable why Mare thought Zashi must have something to do with all of this. Apparently Surshana, whom the theocracy of Slain worships as the god of death, and Ainz Ooal Gown are really quite similar, as Zashi could only learn the skill the goal of all life is death because she had Surshana's weapons, this huge scythe here, and we know that only a few can unlock this powerful skill, since this would require a rather heavy specialization in insta-death magic, like Ainz Ooal Gown had. In other words, Ainz and Surshana are not only both overlords, but they should also have almost the same character build. The Great Tomb of Nazarick has two dedicated major kill zones. The first is on the 6th floor in the amphitheater. After fighting through 5 levels against waves and hordes of monsters of Nazarick, the attackers would already be weakened, and the few remaining enemies would gradually end up in the arena through their own strength or due to teleportation traps, and then they would be defeated by the 41 members of the Great Tomb. If there still would be too many attackers left, the golems in the crowd would join the fight. And the second kill zone is the entire 8th floor, where the main force of Nazarick and its strongest fighter, Albedo, are stationed. Each floor guardian of Nazarick has a certain specialization. Shalltear is the overall strongest of the floor guardians, Gargantua has the highest status values, Cocytus has the highest damage output, Aura is constantly in numerical superiority, thanks to her beasts, Mare is the best area of effect fighter, and Demiurge is the best commander among them. Additionally, Albedo, the overseer of the floor guardians, has the highest defense among them, even though she herself is not technically a floor guardian, but again their overseer. The arena at the 6th floor of Nazarick was oftentimes the place where most raiding parties met their end, since at this point they were way too weak to mount any meaningful resistance, so sometimes Ulbet, Touch Me, Ainz, and the other members of Nazarick would descend into the arena to personally deal with the intruders. Aura and Mare have heterochromia, meaning their eye colors are different, which in elven society is seen as a sign of royalty, which in the 16th novel was also one of the reasons why the Elf King thought that both Aura and Mare were his kids. Despite his level of only 35, which makes him the weakest of the floor guardians, Victim is actually the floor guardian in charge of the strongest floor, the 8, where Nazarick's main fighting force is stationed. As a living sacrifice, his task in battle is to perish, since his death will inflict the enemies of Nazarick with some very nasty debuffs. Even the weakest skeletons and undead in Nazarick have an important purpose. They are there to obtain basic information from the enemies, such as how they fight, what skills they have, who is the healer, who is the melee fighter, and who can cast magic, so that Shalltear and Ainz, who usually intercept these raid groups, have already an information advantage over the attackers. Nazarick mostly benefits from being attacked and raided. Many small raid groups don't even make it to the 1st floor, and the first 3 floors are designed in such a way that the repair cost is low, and to divide the enemies into small groups, making it therefore a lot easier to defeat them. And since every defeated enemy drops an item, dozens of high-level items can accumulate per raid.